Welcome back, beautiful Earthlings. I hope you're well. Really glad that you're tuning into this episode. Today we will be talking about why traditional self-help fails and what real transformation actually looks like. Now, first off, please believe us, this by no means is supposed to be a bash on self-help. Actually, we are quite fans of self-help, but I was thinking about this episode and thought, yeah, if any of these self-help books, for example, work, then there would only be one book in your in the self-help section in your local bookstore. But every year we're getting more and more, and they sell like hotcakes. Anyway, I'm really excited, but of course, this shan't be missed. I'm joined by my beautiful co-host and founder of Inner Earth, Adam. How are you today?
Greetings, brother. Greetings, Earthlings. Oh, I've just got another quote that's come into my head to write down, that I want to
Nice
share.
one.
That's very relevant to what we're talking
Nice.
about today.
Well, you keep looking for it, and I will unload mine. That's sort of very weird, but hey, let's go with it.
Mm.
No amount of discipline can replace the courage to feel what you've been running from.
Ooh, God, yeah, that's juicy, isn't it? No amount of courage, no amount of discipline can replace the courage. Yeah.
And if I like you think about it,
Mm,
like what it kind of ignited in me is that especially in the self-help world, um, you're looking outside. You're reading a book, you're doing a seminar, you're going on a retreat, and you're getting all this input, and you're getting new tools and new modalities, and
mm,
there's a new meditation to do, and yet you're just running from how you really feel.
mm, God, yeah. There's lots to unpack here, isn't there, with that? Um, I would like to just go back to how you began the episode about the one, if there was all these books and that, if they worked, then there would only be one book. But I think the point is, yeah, I think number one is to remember when you're reading a self-help book, you're reading about the someone else's journey and the insights that they've taken from their journey for their experience. And there might be elements of it that you can use and absorb and apply to your own. Um, but a lot of the time, actually, you don't always absorb. For me, I think actually what you absorb from reading a self-help book is inspiration. It's kind of like the inspiration and motivation to go on your own journey. For me, that's what a self-help book gives me. But the quote I was trying to think of at the beginning after you said that relates to it, the one that I love is that Bruce Lee quote that is something along the lines of discard what is useless, add what is useful. No, so absorb what is useful and add what is distinctly your own. So, reading a wide variety of different books, we get to dip in and we get to draw on, a vast range of different insights and journeys and experiences. And we get to pull out and choose which little bits of nuggets of wisdom apply to us and our lives and our journey. And then ultimately, we get to start creating our own framework. And this is also quite a meta conversation because that's exactly what we're doing with Inner Earth, and what I did in the creation of Inner Earth. I didn't, you know, I didn't use everything in conversations with God to create Inner Earth. I didn't use everything in Carl Jung's theory of the archetypes, everything in Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and everything in William Bridges' transition model. There was elements of each one that have been pulled together that have ultimately created my own framework of supporting and helping others to navigate. So I think that's the point I'd like to make in relation to what you were talking about with self help. Is yeah, you're not going to find that one book that gives you all the answers, because it's the journey that you go on that really gives you the answers. Um,
Mm.
and it's a trap, like you've said. it's a trap to fall into, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, and obviously it was a bit of a quip to make at the beginning. I wholeheartedly agree with your statement, especially drawing inspiration and then using, what you can implement in your own life. That's the key here. I I've come across and I've read obviously my fair share of self-help books. They often follow a very similar kind of pattern, which then makes me think, okay, is it really they there to help or to sell? Because once the formula has been found that kind of cracks the zeitgeist.
Mm.
Again, I'm being a bit facetious here, facetious,
It's
a
easy for
bit
you to
silly here.
say.
Yeah, clearly. But yeah, so let's bring this back into the conversation. What do you think? Um, what do you think real transformation takes?
Um, I think it takes, first of all, orientation. Like, where am I in my life? Like, what sort of stage am I going through right now? So some serious self-reflection. Where am I in my life right now? What's good about my life? Maybe what are my values? What are my passions? What turns me on? What turns me off? Who do I value? What don't I value? Um, so I think orientation is important. Just knowing what stage of your life you're in. Are you in an ending? Are you in an in between phase, or are you starting a new beginning? Then I think then self discovery. I think neat fits flows from that into like answering those two questions that we're trying to answer on this podcast through our business. It's like, who am I and who do I want to be? Like, who am I right now? Because you can't really know where you're going or where you want to go until you understand who you are right now. And then who do I want to be? Like, what's that future vision of you or future version of you look like? And that will ultimately inform all of your behaviors and your thoughts, beliefs, and your actions. That will ultimately lead to you becoming that version. And the piece that I think we both agree that most sort of self help fails on is integration, like actually embodying what you've learned in order to become the version of yourself that you want to become. The things, it's really the things to be avoided or wary of is this falling into sort of spiritual entertainment, I call it. Going on endless retreats, yoga retreats, psychedelic retreats, spiritual retreats, um, looking for that thing that's going to fix you.
Mm.
It's actually the looking that helps. It's the journey of looking, ironically, that kind of gets you there. But it's easy to get caught in that loop, isn't it, of thinking something needs fixing. When I was a personal trainer, we had this phrase called program hopping, where someone one week would get a program from a magazine and go, "Oh, this is the best program. It builds my chest and my arms." And then the next week they'd see another program that someone was saying was the best thing to grow this and that. And so you'd swap from that to that. And before you know it, you've swapped 4 or 5 different programs, and you've not integrated any of the knowledge. You've not given the program what it needs, which is consistency in time, in order to recognize whether something's worked for you or not, but also to integrate something properly into your life. Um, and and so I think that is the most important piece. It's like, why are we doing this work if I'm not using that knowledge to actually change? Um, and I just like to add to that this is why I'm such a big fan of hypnotherapy with clients, because it really is an incredible tool to start reframing and changing some internal beliefs and thoughts that really have a tangible impact quite quickly, and change and help change the person. But a lot of that is also through the journey that they go on and the intention that they bring to the process. So yeah, I think integration and embodiment is the most important. Otherwise, you're just going around in circles. Hmm.
Yeah, Yeah, perfect. T- I'll send me the document. I'll sign it. What I what I like to add um, to this, it requires responsibility, right?
Mm,
Transformation requires a an honesty and a responsibility that you have for yourself and only for yourself. And I think often we neglect this sense of responsibility for ourselves because
mm.
again we've given away so much authority and sovereign and here we go again, this English language. This is doing my head in. Let's stick with responsibility. I can say it, but it's so important to make the conscious choice. Okay, I the pain is too big to continue. I no longer want to, the suit I've been wearing doesn't fit anymore. So I have to make some choices in order to step into the next phase of my experience, and that can be challenging.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. It's funny that I've never been, and I think, yeah, I've never been one of those kind of people. I remember at a younger age when I was working for my stepdad in his factory, many years ago when I was like 19, 20. And I remember working in the factory, and I remember being aware of people that would consistently moan about the job they were doing. But they'd keep showing up for it day in day out, and they did the same thing for years. But they fucking moaned consistently, and I was always like, if you're that unhappy, why aren't you doing something to change it? It just didn't make logical sense to me. I think I've always been a sort of aware and sort of reflective person, and if I'm not happy and something, I'm not going to waste my time doing something that makes me unhappy. I'm going to seek out a way of improving my situation, so um and like you said, that speaks to responsibility, but I think also the willingness to step into the unknown, which is scary. It's like better the devil you know for some people, isn't it? It's much easier to stay stuck in this thing that I don't really enjoy, but that I know and I understand, rather than going into the unknown, which is what we talk about when we're talking about those transitions. The transition, that's that phase between the ending and the new beginning. Like it can be a very challenging place to spend time, and I think people avoid it. And I
Yeah,
know
it's this. Oh,
I was
mhm.
just going to say, and I know we're going to talk about that more specifically on another podcast, so won't go into too much detail today.
Yeah, no, a good point. But um, unfortunately, I have done this in my own life, right? I have let the pain build to such a point that it was then once it's too big, of course you make a change, or you're forced to. There's no other way
Mm,
but making a change.
mm,
But once we learn to take more responsibility for our actions and our thinking and our being, the pain doesn't have to be as big,
mm,
right? We don't have to uh, get it built up to such a high point that then it's much, much, much harder to go
mm,
through the neutral zone and allow yourself to be soft on yourself, to forgive yourself, to reflect.
mm. Yeah, I do agree with that, brother. I think within that, there's also something called the cycle of change, which we can do another podcast on at some point, which is a sort of these stages of change that we go through when we're changing some form of habit and behavior. And there's various different stages which we won't go into now, but there's the stage before action is preparation, um, and then after action is maintenance, and then after maintenance is relapse. But you know, you, sometimes it takes time and energy and self-reflection to get yourself to that place of preparation, preparing to take action to
Mm.
change. Um, but I think what speaks to what you were saying about responsibility is you need to actually you need to make that conscious choice yourself. Like I've had
Mm.
enough, and some people, it's not until the pain is painful enough that
Mm.
It's kind of how we're wired a lot of the time as human beings, right? And for some people, the pain might be
Mm,
like terminal illness, hospital, or bankruptcy, and other people it might just be, oh, shit's not going that well in my life right now. I'm a bit unhappy, and that might be enough for them to change. So I think it's probably different for each individual as to what, where, why, and what time they end up at those different stages. Um, I would like to give us a quote just to see us out on, buddy. Um, unless there's something else that you'd like to share.
plenty of things, but I think I like the this moment in time for this quote.
Okay, brother. So I think whilst we can read all the books and do all the things, it's ultimately the journey that we go on and the experience that we have that informs us and gives us the growth, and that's what we learn the tools from. And the quote I love, it's a very simple and short one, is a smooth sea never made a good sailor. So it's through those challenges we become who we become.
Hmm. Oh God, I have to be very careful now because it opens a can of worm in my head.
Yeah, you just want to follow up, don't you? I know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But man, look, let's land this spaceship. Dear Earthlings, thank you so much for watching. I hope you took something away. How do you feel about self-help? What it takes to really make profound transformations? We would like to hear that in the comments. You get all the information in the show notes, our website, innerearth.co.uk. You find much more information also about Adam's work as a hypnotherapist. Yeah, please like and subscribe. The usual YouTube shenanigans. And we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Goodbye, everybody. And any last words, Adam?
That's it for me now. That's all, folks. See you on the next one, Inner Earthlings.
That's all, folks. Goodbye.